Welcome back to Chicago's Morning Answer. I'm John Anthony filling in for Dan Proft. I host the Black and Right, heard every Saturday from 4 to 7 p.m. right here on these airwaves and the airwaves of Detroit, Michigan, 92.7 FM and AM 1400, The Answer. Please go and follow my social media platforms. Black and Right Radio, I'm on all of them. You can follow me on every single social media platform that we have. I used to have Parler and Gitter and all that. I don't know how to get back into those accounts at the moment, so I really do apologize. But I'm on YouTube. I see the YouTube crowd is really going at it today. I do bring on people that I disagree with on my radio show, and I'm not afraid to do so at all. But my next guest, he spent 37 years in law enforcement. He rose through the ranks. All of the ranks of the Riverside Police Department before he served the final 13 years as its chief. He's worked patrol, investigations, internal affairs, training. He did public information, and also police administration. He's also the survivor, and a lot of people don't know about this, of a line of duty shooting and the father of 3 Illinois police officers. Today, Chief Tom Weitzel serves as the fellow of law enforcement with my good friend over at Wake, Illinois, and remains a forceful voice on public safety, police leadership, gun violence, and the policies that affect the men and women expected to enforce the law. Chief Weitzel, welcome to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft.
Good morning, John. Thank you so much for having me on.
Wait, I just want to know, how did you get on the radar of Laura Trump? I saw the interview. How did you get on her radar for her to call you to say, let's do an interview?
Yeah, I got a call from her producer who said that they had seen me on Fox News at Night and other interviews, and they just asked me if I'd be interested in coming on her podcast, because she was going to do a program on crime in Illinois, sanctuary cities and states, and just how that affected law enforcement. So she asked me on.
Wow, look at you. You just rising through the ranks, man. Your Twitter, or your X rather, is just exploding at the moment, man. And I'm so happy that somebody that I know who truly gets policing and explains it in a way that even a fifth grader could understand. And I'm so glad to see all the success that you're getting, sir.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You recently highlighted this Chicago Defender column, arguing that Chicago voters have spoken in support of this gunshot detection technology, which Mayor Brandon Johnson has done away with. The author compared it to a smoke alarm or an automated external defibrillator. You and I both know it does not prevent the emergency, but it alerts people quickly enough to save a life. Why do you believe gunshot detection technology remains an important public safety tool?
Because one of the main goals of law enforcement is respond quickly. You can't respond at all if we don't know about it. And ShotSpotter was designed for police response. It's not a crime reduction tool. It doesn't prevent shootings, stabbings, etc., but it gets the police to the scene when it's been documented that police don't know about shootings or shots fired for hours, and in fact, sometimes days. Some of the listeners may follow CWB Chicago's Brandon's Bodies, and there's documented cases, I think they're up to like 85, where bodies have laid on the backyards, sidewalk, alleys, and no 911 calls were made, and they were shot to death, or they were still alive when police got there, but they were shot. But imagine, no first aid, no paramedics, no police, nothing. Just a body laying on the roadway or sidewalk.
Yeah, it looks like they've stopped counting the bodies after that. I mean, I'm looking at the list of the people. You're right. There was a ton of bodies that. But a lot of critics say ShotSpotter produced too many of those alerts that did not lead to evidence of a shooting or an arrest. The supporters say that the criticism measures the wrong thing because the system's primary purpose is notification and rapid response. What do you think, Chief, is the proper standard for judging whether it works? Because, I mean, in some videos you see clearly, and then some are just muddled. Well, I mean, I think the technology aspect of it has to get better, too.
Yeah, that could be improved a little bit. They never touted themselves as 100%. And let's face it, John, there's no police tool that's 100%. It doesn't exist. I don't care what it is. So I think my standard would be that it it alerts the police and starts you in that direction or gets you going. I mean, just think about how many calls are reported to police that do not come as reported. Burglary in progress, and you get there, and it's not a burglary in progress, right? It might be a theft, it might be a disturbance, but it's called in as a burglary, or it's called in as a retail theft. But when you get to the scene, it's a robbery or an armed robbery. So to classify ShotSpotter that sometimes it doesn't particularly have the exact data they need, it still sends the police in directions, it sends it to that location, and then it allows the police to investigate and find out what's going on. That should be the standard.
You know, you also recently argued that local police agencies should be instructed to assist federal immigration agents with marked police units when ICE needs a vehicle stop. You suggested that the Illinois sanctuary policy make that cooperation. You said it makes it less likely. Explain the situation you are concerned about. Why would a marked local squad car be safer than having plainclothes or less visibly identifiable federal agents conduct the traffic stop? And where do they get the power to do the traffic stops?
Well, you know, ICE right now said they're not going to be doing the normal traffic stops. You saw that. So if that's going to happen, let's take Illinois, for example. The Illinois is instructed not to do that, right? They're not to assist ICE. They're only supposed to assist by crowd control and if there's a riot type situation. Well, then if ICE needs to stop a vehicle with a armed or a violent felon that they're looking for on a legitimate detainer, they should be able to call local law enforcement and conduct that traffic stop. Illinois doesn't allow that now. So no police agency is going to do that. That needs to change if you want it to be safe, because if you have a marked police car with an officer in uniform from the jurisdiction that you're doing the enforcement, make the traffic stop. Most people will stop. Most will respect the local law enforcement agency, and then the investigation can be conducted. So these individuals and activists that scream, well, they're out of control, they make the situation worse. If you want it to be safer, then you're going to need to involve local law enforcement because of the ICE new policy on traffic stops.
You know, Chief, when you were chief of Riverside, we still had this issue. We had this issue where ICE had to work with local law enforcement, and I'm sure they worked with you in Riverside. Did they always need this judicial warrant for you to assist ICE before this new policy came into existence, that they just simply couldn't assist ICE?
No, they did not. We would get ICE detainers. Every law enforcement agency in Illinois went before there was this huge controversy. And it usually happened like this. You arrested an individual for anything, DUI, suspended, retail theft. Once their fingerprints are booked into the system, if they had a detainer from the federal government, we would get a fax. Back then, a fax, probably a PDF now. They'd send you a fax that we have a legitimate detainer. We will pick this individual up within 48 hours. Please hold them for us. Yeah. And local agencies would hold the individual for the federal government to come pick up. That's exactly how it works.
What changed? Politics, maybe?
Politics changed, without a doubt. What happened is politics changed. And, you know, John, you look at when that happened. There weren't any controversy. There wasn't anything. And you know why that happened? Because the individual was in custody. Yeah. So there was no foot chases, no car chases. There was no shooting, stabbings. If they allowed ICE detainers to be honored when the individual is in custody, this violence would go down 85% immediately.
Yeah. You know, Tom Homan went to, he was coming out, I believe he's coming out of the White House, and he had this to say about some of the things that the fake news is reporting on ICE.
It's reporting out there, you know, people say there's fear in the immigrant community. Well, most of the fear comes from the hateful rhetoric being passed by people up on the Hill and some media. You know, people think we raid elementary schools. People think we raid churches. People think we raid hospitals. Give me one example, any of you, where we arrested anybody in the hospital, or we arrested anybody in elementary school, or we arrested anybody in church. The only people that violated the sanctity of a church was Don Lemon and his group. But when they keep putting these false stories out, it does put fear in the immigrant community. And I'll say it again, if you're in the country legally, you should be concerned.
Now, Chief, you are a former public information officer. I think it's incumbent upon a lot of these police departments and their PIO offices to ensure that the media and a lot of these things that come out, specifically the city of Chicago and the sheriff's office, they need to do a better job of refuting these fake stories, correct? And what role does the media play in that?
plays a huge role, and I could tell you that a lot of public information officers are being fed that information from above them. So they're putting out these press releases and news releases that's pre-printed that some politician sent to the chief, superintendent, sheriff, whatever your title is, and then your PIO is spitting that out. It's not coming from the local police agency. It's coming from the politicians.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a former public information officer. That's one of the reasons why I know the pressures that you get when and how to report or how to list the press release when you're doing it, and how many eyes and ears and how many hands touches that thing. It's amazing. But before you go, I want to really quickly, you've seen the Tyler Robinson case against he murdered Charlie Kirk. I looked at the evidence. I sat through all of what was happening with the preliminary hearing. You hear a lot of people that are out there saying all these different type of things. How strong was the evidence? How strong do you think the prosecution presented the case at this hearing, preliminary hearing?
Extremely strong evidence. I don't think there's a police investigator in the United States that wouldn't tell you that. I mean, just from my experience of what I had to submit as evidence when I was a detective to felony review in Cook County, that the amount of evidence they have in that case would get you approval or an indictment immediately. There's a large amount of evidence. So, let's face it, you and I both probably had cases go through that had much less evidence than that were approved at the felony level.
Yes, this is true. And another thing, I think Lance Twiggs had a bigger role in this than what we've been led to believe, and I can't wait to see if the probable cause is met, that it goes to trial. I can't wait to hear exactly the role that Lance Twiggs. I don't think Tyler Robinson did this by himself. I think that part is where Candace and the other group have gotten it right. I do not think he did this by himself. I think there was a group of people that got together. I could be wrong. I mean, and I'm okay to admit when I'm wrong, Chief. Do you think Twiggs had a larger role in this than we've been led to believe?
I'm not sure about that. Like, I only like to go with what the evidence is. That's the way I was trained my whole life. So I would say right now that they have the right person charged. They have the right amount of evidence. They have significant amount of evidence, and they have enough for a successful prosecution. Let's make no doubt about that.
Chief, where can people follow you on your X and any other social media accounts you have?
Yeah, they can follow me on X at Chief Weitzel, and I'm on TikTok the same. They can just Google Chief Weitzel. I have my own Substack column at Substack called The Memo. They can follow me there. You can just Google my name, Chief Weitzel. They all come up. But I do have a lot of information on my X account at Chief Weitzel.
What's coming up? You got any articles you're prepping for? You want to tease us with?
Yeah, I just wrote a column for the Chicago Contrarian. I don't know if you're aware of that organization.
I love the Chicago Contrarian, yes.
I just wrote a guest column for them on police leadership, not only in Illinois but nationwide, and how it's time for police leaders to step up and lead and not have politicians walk you down like a puppet.
Dude, the worst thing that has ever happened to policing is politics infected it with a virus. And if we can ever go back to just the evidence and just the science of policing, I think policing would be such a better place.
Agreed, 100%.
All right, Chief Weitzel, former retired chief of Riverside Police Department. Thanks so much for joining us on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You as well, sir. And he joined us on our Alpha Wealth Group .line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer. Hear podcasts from Chicago's Morning Answer, The Sean Thompson Show, and all of your favorite AM 560 hosts. Go to 560theanswer.com/podcasts to listen and subscribe.
Networks, streaming services, retail chains, and tech giants are all adding plus to their names. But where did the